It is the police call everybody will be talking about. Thanks for joining us here at 6 o'clock. I'm Denise Valdez.
I'm Brian Loftus. A family says something crashed into their backyard, prompting them to call 911, saying they saw creatures walking around.
Our 8 News Now investigators digging into this for weeks now. And tonight, our David Sharns with the video you will only see on 8 News Now. David?
Right, Denise, sources telling the 8 News Now investigators that several agencies believe something landed or crashed. Whether it was non-humans or not, it certainly scared the people living on this property. Now, before we show you that video, listen to their call for help.
There's like an 8-foot person beside it, and another one's inside, and it has big eyes and looking at us, and it's still there.
Okay, where is this on your property?
In my backyard. I swear to God, this is not a joke. This is actually, we're terrified of it.
So there's 2 people or 2 subjects that are in your backyard?
Correct, and they're very large. They're like 8 foot, 9 feet, 10 foot. I don't know. They look like aliens to us. Big eyes. They have big eyes, like I can't explain it, and big mouth. They're shiny eyes, and they're not human. They're 100% they're not human.
Okay.
Well, the 8 News Now investigators obtaining video as officers then responded to the call you just heard. You'll see the officers also saw something in the sky that night, but the big question is, what was it?
The House Oversight Committee is in the beginning stages of planning a hearing on UFOs. This follows claims from a whistleblower that the U.S. government is keeping secret its studies of an extraterrestrial craft. Air Force veteran and former intelligence official David Grush sat down with investigative journalist Ross Coulthart, who's reporting for News Nation. Coulthart is an award-winning journalist and author who has reported for the Australian version of 60 Minutes, as well as other programs. He has spent years investigating the UFO question. Grush said the military has kept a UFO program secret from the public and from Congress for decades.
When you say crash retrieval, what do you mean?
These are retrieving non-human origin technical vehicles, call it spacecraft if you will. It's probably not the right parlance, but no kidding, non-human, exotic origin vehicles that have either landed or crashed.
We have spacecraft from another species.
We do, yeah.
The revelations have sparked up debate in public view and a slew of articles this week, some calling for full disclosure by the government of
reporting. Schellenberger writes that the individuals said they had seen or been presented with, quote, credible and verifiable evidence that the U.S. government and U.S. military contractors possess at least 12 or more alien spacecraft, some of which they shared with AARO or the All-Domain Anomaly Resolution Office, quote, which AARO has refused to provide Congress. The office reportedly said it has not discovered any verifiable information, end quote, because it does not have the authority to verify it and may not want to verify it. Joining us now to discuss is Twitter Files author and author of Apocalypse Never, Michael Schellenberger. Thank you for being with us, Michael.
Good to be with you.
So, confirmation, aliens are real. This is exciting. What do you make of the baker's dozen of alien spacecraft that we have?
Well, I think it's worth just pointing out that this is very shocking. The whistleblower in question, David Grush, used the term ontological shock, which is a little bit of jargon, but what he means is that the idea that we are not alone in the abstract is something that everybody, I mean, not everybody, but many people, the large majority of people agree with, that we are almost certainly not alone in the universe. However, the idea that there may already be contact or have been contact for quite a while between the U.S. military and non-human intelligence, non-human life forms is very shocking.
I'd say there are some typical reported characteristics of UAPs when you look at all of these out there. And this was sort of interesting. And this is reported. This is what people say they saw. They typically say they are round and small. They tend to be white, silver, or translucent. They tend to be somewhere between 10 and 30,000 feet in the air, either stationary or up to Mach 2 or twice the speed of sound, and no thermal exhaust. But here's the problem with all of that, John. The problem with that is largely anecdotal. That's just people saying that's what they saw, or it's being measured with all sorts of crazy different instruments out there. And here's what's important. There are a lot of these reports. Listen to what was said at this conference about the sheer volume of these reports that are coming in.
At the time of my open hearing, we were at 650 cases-ish. We roughly get, I mean, you can do the math, you know, it depends anywhere from 50 to 100-ish new reports a month. Now, the reason we had such a big jump recently is because I got FAA's data integrated in finally, and so we ended up with like 100 and some odd new cases. The numbers I would say that we see are possibly really anomalous are less than single-digit percentages of those.
So, John.
A lot of people ask me, you know, where are the aliens? And I think if anyone would know about aliens on Earth, it would probably be me.
I would think.
Yeah, I'm, you know, very familiar with space.
Now, you know, this whole concept of extraterrestrial came up, right? And there had been congressional hearings about this, about UFOs, and now we find out most of them were Chinese spy balloons or weather balloons or whatever. But in the broader conversation here, does this change your view at all of the nature of extraterrestrial life?
No, not really, because we have greater capacity. I've used this phrase before, and I mean it genuinely. Given the number of smartphones in the world today, 6 billion, we are unwittingly crowdsourcing any possible alien invasion because everyone could take high-resolution video of it, post it instantly, and it would be viral. At least as viral as kittens jumping from the table.
Oh, no, nothing is viral.
Okay, it will be
anything
second.
to do with cats, I think
it would be
is
okay. Then after cats, then aliens invading Earth. Okay, so I think I'd like it when people need an excuse to look up. Right, look up. Mm-hmm. And by the way, the government doesn't want you to not look up if hundreds of millions of people look up and see things that could harm us. I want the military to investigate this, but by all means. Right. And so it's just odd that we have expensive planes and expensive missiles to pop balloons. That's a little odd to me, but fine. Protect my airspace.
Well, you know, journalists say, follow the money. We physicists say, follow the evidence. Follow the people who have access to the evidence. Now, this is right out of a Hollywood script. In the past, we've had farmers and suburbanites say they saw something out there. The burden of proof was on them to prove that they were extraterrestrial visitations. Now the burden of proof has shifted. Now the Pentagon has to prove that these aren't extraterrestrial. And now we have this senior Pentagon official, former Pentagon official David Garouche, who says that there are evidence of not just the wreckage of UFOs, but an intact vessel, perhaps even the bodies. And again, the difference is that this is no longer just a farmer or a suburbanite saying they saw something out there. Now there is a debate within the Pentagon itself at the highest level, with different people within the military contradicting each other. And so I think that this is a good thing, because now perhaps the truth will come out.
So one of the claims that David Grush makes is that the evidence he has witnessed suggests that of the crash wreckage, some of the crash wreckage that's been retrieved, the elements are not of human origin. And he also states that they've recovered pilots, maybe singular, but it seemed as though it was of non-human species. And I can only imagine that that sort of gets your spidey senses tingling. What are your thoughts about that kind of possibility?
Well, I'm a scientist. We have to be open to the truth and to data. That's what we physicists work on. The more information we get, the better. Now, so far, we have not seen the smoking gun. We have not seen evidence of DNA, for example, from these alien bodies. We haven't seen alien transistors and alien circuits. That would clinch it right there. No ifs, ands, or buts. As soon as we have alien DNA or an alien chip, end of story. However, we're not there yet, because we just have eyewitness accounts of people who've encountered these things, but we don't have the smoking gun. And until we have the smoking gun, we scientists have to reserve our final judgment. But the very fact that we're talking about this at all is amazing. The burden of proof has shifted. Now the Pentagon has to prove that these aren't extraterrestrial. This is, I think, a milestone.
Yeah, I mean, the fact that you and I are talking about this, and not because it was on, News of the World or a supermarket tabloid, is pretty remarkable. This is coming from a man who was an Air Force veteran, former member of the National Geospatial Intelligence Agency. He's a whistleblower. He's not, a quack. And so I'm, on one hand, I can't quite believe that there's a non-human pilot that was recovered. On the other hand, sometimes I wonder if we just think we're way smarter than we are. And by the way, Dr. Kaku, you're one of the smartest people I've ever encountered. Do you sometimes think we're only at the nascence of universal knowledge?
Yeah, I think we're just beginning to understand how gorgeous this universe is. The fact that we've now seen so many planets orbiting other star systems, they could be homeworlds to other intelligent beings. And we now have a census of the Milky Way galaxy. Every star, on average, has a planet going around it. In other words, think about it, 100 billion planets, minimum, in your backyard, in the Milky Way galaxy. And that's why I think that to assume that there's nobody out there is ridiculous. Of course they're out there. The only debate is to whether or not they can reach us, but yes, they are out there.
Well, then there's the debate, discussion, or fear, you can pick any of those, that they may be unfriendlies, they may be hostile. They may look at us as a nuisance rather than something that's fascinating, if that is the fact, if they do actually exist. Can you speak to the issue of hostility? And this, it seems like we're talking pie in the sky here, but if there is an issue of hostility, do we globally have a scientific community that can convince our political leaders around the world that we are far stronger as one than trying to be the leaders in whatever our programs are discovering?
Well, if you walk down a trail in a forest and you encounter a squirrel, do you go out there and try to conquer the squirrel and his habitat? No, maybe you want to try to talk to the squirrel. Eventually you get kind of bored because the squirrels don't talk back to you. But in the same way, if the aliens can reach us from outer space, they are hundreds, thousands of years more advanced than us, and we're simply not a threat to them. They could have done damage.